are now tuned into the MECE Muse Unplugged, a pop-up podcast variety show helping consultants along their journey to greatness with your host, management consultant, author and blogger, Christie Lindor.
Hey, my go-getters. Welcome to the MECE Muse Unplugged podcast show. So today's episode is super special. I'm going to dub it my Welcome Back to Campus series. So over the next month or so, we're going to highlight specific shows and talk about topics that are helpful for all of my undergrad and graduate go-getters out there. For all of my go-getters that are in school, you may have just been coming back from your vacations, internships, maybe hung out at home during all the summer, really kind of unplugged. Wanted to just kind of, get you up to speed with our podcast show because we launched in July. So many of you may have missed that, and wanted to make sure that you are aware of this invaluable resource that was created. I created the podcast show specifically with you in mind. All of my college go-getters thinking about going into consulting and trying to figure out what that specifically means. I talk a lot on the show as well to people that are new to consulting, so just starting their career, or experienced hires wanting to go back into a different career, and that's consulting either as a freelancer or joining a firm. So I kind of cover a lot of different kind of targeted listeners. But for this episode, I wanted to really focus on my college go-getters specifically and give you an orientation to what we're doing here and how you can get connected. So this is going to be a quick show. Again, I call it the Welcome Back to Campus series for September. I wanted to highlight three things. One is to get you acclimated with a couple of episodes I think you should probably go ahead and check out while you are kind of getting acclimated to what we're offering. Two, I wanted to discuss the MECE Mentoring Moment. That was a new segment that we introduced in the show. And three, I wanted to actually preview kind of what's to come. We've got 5 new episodes that are on their way. I'll talk about the first 3 that you really want to check out. Let's kind of get started. So starting with getting acclimated to the show. If this is your first time listening, I really highly suggest you check out episode 1. I really lay down the framework and the foundation of my story in consulting, what kind of got me started on this path. I then share a little bit about what I call the MECE Muse story. I share that in episode 2 as well. So episodes 1 and 2 just kind of is really nice, kind of ground setting, context type of information to share. If you want, you can kind of go from there and fast forward. If you want to get kind of a cliff notes of all the episodes I've done to date, I would highly recommend you check out episode 10. So in episode 10, I really just kind of highlight all the episodes we've done and previewed a couple that we were going to be doing in August timeframe. And for our first set of episodes to kick off kind of the back to school campus, we've actually just 2 of them we've already done. So I'm going to highlight specifically the episode 6. Episode 6, we had a chance to connect with Schwan. She is a recent PhD student, just graduated, looking to get into consulting. And she shared a little bit about her journey. So I'm going to play a little snippet of that episode.
So if I understood it correctly, it sounds like a good performance. They all share kind of some basic proficiency in terms of being able to structure a problem, being able to kind of solve it. But what truly takes candidate from good to outstanding is the ability to be innovative, to kind of show his or her unique personality and do that and articulate in a very crisp and a compelling way. Is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. I would definitely. And it's compelling. So there's innovative, compelling, but also simple.
Simple.
There's a lot of power in being able to take something that's very complex and being able to simplify it. So find ways, that you're able to talk about a business problem in kind of, like layman terms. That also can come off really compelling because people don't have to really try to interpret or understand what you're saying as much when you're using the more common language. So I see another thing with sometimes with candidates is that they get so caught up in using these big fancy words that may not resonate. So, knowing the fancy words is one thing, but knowing when to use them is another. And I think, being able to have that professional maturity really, can make a candidate shine.
In episode 13, I got a chance to connect with Michaela. And so Michaela, we had what I call a crossroads interview, right? Crossroads are where we get a chance to discuss someone coming in or out of consulting and have a conversation about that. So in this episode, Michaela actually just got her first consulting job offer. Very exciting times. And I got a chance to share a snippet of things she should be considering for her first role, but she also shares her recruiting story and how she, really differentiated her candidacy. So I want to just play a snippet of that episode for you. What were some of the things that you felt that you did? You mentioned earlier about case interviews. Like, what were some of the things that you did to prepare that you felt like really kind of help you become and differentiate your candidacy versus others?
So I was pretty purposeful. I knew that there were certain elements and boxes that I needed to check. And so it honestly isn't just one thing. I think all of these things are absolutely necessary. So it was the case prep, the networking, the internal experience, the external experience, and then the general biotech news. And I'll go through each of these. So for the case prep, I started probably about 6 months ago doing a case a week with our local case practice group.
Awesome. So before I kind of talk about the preview of what's to come of other episodes, I want to take a step back and talk about, kind of a second point of this kind of orientation that I'm calling it. And, during the summer, we decided to introduce what I call a podcast interlude segment called MECE Mentoring Moments. And what MECE Mentoring Moments have become, at least right now, it may change in the future, but what I've done is, we started getting fan mail. So it's one thing, to get the support, which is amazing, but the fact that we started getting fan mail and people sending us questions has been really awesome. And I'm the type of person, when people ask me for advice, I like to be, kind of give them the advice just when they need it, kind of that just in time type of feedback. And I kind of struggled, with the idea of just answering, one person's email. So I said, what? I came up with this interlude idea. When I get any fan mail with a question that I need to respond to, I go ahead, I record a question. So it's like an impromptu. I don't include any music or any type of greeting. I just kind of read the email and respond, the best way that I could to that fan mail. Those episodes are usually 10 minutes or less. So far to date, we've already posted about 2 of them. There'll be more. Probably by the time this airs, we'll probably have a couple more on the belt. But when you hear the MECE Mentoring Moments, just know that those are just kind of really quick sound bites just to answer fan mail. So if you have questions or want to kind of run a dilemma or think an idea through, go ahead and drop us a line at MECE Muse Unplugged at Gmail. Happy to answer your question during our MECE Mentoring Moments. All right, and then so for what's to come, my third point that I wanted to cover today, we've got three special episodes coming up, later this month that I wanted you to listen to as well, so you can know what to expect as part of this Welcome Back to Campus type of series. And so for episode 16, I got a chance to connect with Dustin Whitehurst. Dustin is one of the co-founders of consultinginterviewcoach.com. Really great organization that he has, created. He, like myself, we worked actually at the same consulting firm several years ago. And so super excited that I got a chance to meet him through his organization. And I think, it's what I call a quick wins type of interview where we get a chance to connect about a product or service that people should consider, as adding to their toolkit. And Destin's service definitely fits that bill. So I'm going to play a snippet of that episode. if someone is interested, in your services, either as a new consultant or, deciding that they want to transition to another firm and they need a little bit of, support with interviewing, tell us a little bit about the process of how, you have clients for your consulting interview coaching services.
Definitely. So about a third of our clients are undergraduates, about a third are MBAs, and about a third are professionals, as you mentioned, looking to pivot. And so they find us sort of from a variety of sources, but we offer first a trial interview for folks that are interested in just getting a baseline of where their skills are, what our assessment of their development areas, and also to get a taste of how we go about our coaching. We then move into hopefully the service component, where either working with one coach or a variety of coaches who are communicating amongst themselves to sort of share the progress of a given candidate. They are working on 1-hour sessions, so either fit or case practice. It's tailored exactly to the key firms that the individual is recruiting for.
In episode 17, I had a chance to do what I call a crossroads interview again. So crossroads are people coming in or out of consulting and having a conversation. So I got a chance to connect with Brianna. Brianna is a second-year intern. She had a chance to do a couple interns and got her first consulting offer as a result of her internships. And so in our interview, she shares a little bit about her journey, things she learned about in her internship experience, and gives advice to another intern actually that I had recently met with that did not get a consulting offer and wanted to know kind of what the next steps were. So I'm going to play a snippet of that episode. How did you feel, the moment that you got it? Like, did they give you hints that you were going to get the offer, or did they leave you in the dark? Give us a little bit of when you first found out.
Yeah, so they kind of, I guess they kind of give you hints. Your team, will kind of hint here and there, when you're here again next summer or things like that. But I mean, you never really know. I've heard people who've had amazing feedback throughout their internships and have not received offers just because some places are so competitive. But definitely, even though I was getting that positive feedback, I wasn't certain of it. So when I got the offer, I was definitely jumping up and down, so excited, because it's obviously so amazing to have something secured before you're even done with school, because you just, that's the scary part, just not knowing what comes next.
In episode 18, I decided to do something a little different. It's another quick wins type of interview, but I got a chance to connect with a campus recruiter. So one of the things that, I hear a lot from college students is, they want to understand the recruiting process and sometimes demystify that. I think there's a lot of perceptions and misconceptions out there. So I was very fortunate. I got a chance to connect with Sammy, who has spent many years helping recruit future consultants from campuses. And so it was just perfect to give you a chance to hear directly from recruiters kind of what they're thinking during a candidate's process. The first question, that I'm thinking of, kind of going back to the application piece. I've heard, from younger consultants or, people looking to go into consulting, they'll say, well, I'll go online and I'll read a job description. And sometimes the requirements, they're well, there's 10 requirements on there, but I probably have 7 of them, or they're looking for someone with 8 to 10 years of X type of experience. I don't have 8 to 10. I have maybe 4 or 5. For people like that, when you talked about the standout pile versus the red flags, do you think they have a shot at a particular role if they don't nail the requirements that you're looking for?
Absolutely. Yeah. So a lot of times you'll probably notice too in those job descriptions, they're very broad and pretty much anyone could think, yeah, I could do the majority of what's listed there, because we know we can look for a lot of different things. And then as you're getting to know the team or the folks in the interviews, they can then say, okay, this person would be a better fit for XYZ based on their skill set and background. So I would encourage that person to definitely apply, because while that one posting that you see is 8 to 10 years, maybe they also have a position that's more the 4 to 7 year range, not posted yet, but when they see your resume or meet you, they would think, oh my gosh, we filled this other role without even trying. So while it's not necessarily a guarantee, because sometimes those requirements are there on purpose and we really need someone legally to have a certain amount of years of experience, never let that discourage you from applying, because you never know what might be coming in what we call our pipeline or our queue of other opportunities that we might be able to match you with, even though it might not be the exact one that you applied for.
So excited we were able to sneak in one more episode to round out our Back to Campus series. So for episode 19, I had the utmost pleasure of connecting with Kofi Kankam. So Kofi, he is the co-founder of admitadvantage.com, as well as the founder of admit.me. And 3 fun facts that I really loved about the conversation I had with Kofi. So one, he is a former consultant himself. He started on the path of consulting and decided that he wanted to go and venture into more of an entrepreneurial space. 2, Kofi has had the privilege of attending some of the top schools in the world, such as Harvard and Wharton. And 3, Kofi spent, the latter part of a decade or so really being a serial entrepreneur with a really cool laser focus on helping go-getters such as yourself get admitted into the top schools in the world. And so with our conversation, he really honed in on what are some things that you as, graduate or undergraduate go-getters can do to kind of secure kind of a consulting role. And then he also shared some guidance for consultants that may be at a crossroads seeking to make a pivot into a top B school. So I'm going to play a snippet of that episode for you. In my day-to-day, I speak to a lot of younger consultants that are always kind of in a crossroads, right? They're either thinking about doing something kind of, similar to you, following their passion and going out into entrepreneurship, or they're thinking about going to B school or doing some sort of kind of, further, higher education piece of it. Given what you've been doing in the admissions coaching space, what would you say is some of the common pitfalls you may see with someone's admissions application or the journey of how they get into school, especially if they're coming with a consulting background? Like, what would be some advice you would give to like that younger consultant that maybe thinking about going to like a Wharton or Harvard or another, business school, and given, that they've had that consulting background, like what would you say to them?
Right. I'd say a couple of things. That's a good question. Firstly, your job performance is really important. So a lot of times people are so focused on the next step, like what's after working, especially once they make the decision to go to school, that they're not focused on the here and now and doing a good job where they are. And so that can have huge impact in terms of their application, because maybe they don't get promoted as quickly. Maybe their potential professional recommendation, which pretty much has to be from your boss. Maybe he or she sees a drop off in your performance. Those are, it's really important. People think it's all about sort of just your GMAT and your grades, but the recommendations are hugely important. I've seen candidates who I've seen recommendations from some of these people's bosses, and the people have literally said in the recommendations that, they started sort of well and they're good, but, they're not sort of as good as they used to be. So I think that's a huge, huge issue in terms of people losing focus on kind of where they are right now. I think secondarily, a lot of times consultants especially, are so worried about the fact that other consultants from their firm and from their firm's office, their specific office, may be applying to school, that they're so focused on that being the only linchpin to getting in. And they avoid writing about sort of personal motivations for going to school, personal motivations for wanting to start a company, things they do outside of work in terms of showcasing really high level of leadership and showcasing an ability to leverage with education to help other people. These are the things that schools are maniacally focused on.
Well, that wraps up our Welcome Back to Campus episode for today. please check out, these episodes that I mentioned. The rest of September is all about campus. So I will be looking forward to getting emails. Drop us a line again, MECE Muse Unplugged at gmail.com. Have a great day and have an amazing school year. And I look forward to connecting with you all in the future. Thanks for tuning in. And here's to your journey to greatness. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. This pop-up podcast was inspired by my upcoming book, The MECE Muse, 100 plus selected practices, unwritten rules, and habits of great consultants. I have people asking me over the last year many questions about this book, but the one question that comes up constantly is, Christie, you have such a demanding career. How did you find time to write this book? And honestly, the answer is simple. I really sought to become the mentor that I wish I had earlier in my career. In the beginning of my career, I didn't have many mentors, mental maps of what success really looked like. And I really struggled with that in a lot of different ways. But what's nice about struggles is that I overcame them. I grew stronger, more competent, and I'm so excited where I am today in my career. I just want to share, what I've learned and be able to help you. And so I wrote the book, with my years of experience, but I also had an amazing opportunity to connect with over 50 or so consulting partners and leaders across the industry, sharing their stories, their antidotes, their resources on how you could be a great consultant yourself. So do me a favor, pick up your phone right now. Go to www.mecemuse.com. If you scroll down, you'll see a little box that says sign up for the book pre-sale notification. Go ahead and sign up for it. I'd love to hear your feedback on my book as well as the podcast. So thanks again for listening, and here's to your journey to greatness.